Good to be back. Must have done something good last year to get invited back again. So a good start. And I think for us, it's good to be back because it's a milestone moment to see, number one, if we've actually done some of the things we said we were going to do, but also where we're going to go to next as a business in the Australian market. For us, the moment kind of arrived mid last year to really start to embrace alternate currencies, but I'll take on a bit of a journey to get to that point first. Foxtel Media, so representing those brands you can see on the page there. Foxtel being our set-top box linear business, KO sports streaming platform, Binge the entertainment equivalent of KO, Flash the news service, and we also represent LG Ads and Tubi in the Australian marketplace. The tagline there, Australia's most watchable, something that we pushed out in our upfronts this year. Last year I was here, I was talking about ad load, ad experience, frequency capping. We've done a lot of work to test our platforms on attention, engagement versus other platforms. And we've kind of got enough metrics now to prove versus many platforms that we have one of the most watchable video platforms in the marketplace. Spoke a lot 12 months ago about the Foxtel turnaround story, a traditional paid TV company. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've accelerated our digital footprint. To put that in perspective, where we sit today on KO and Binge, the two streaming platforms, almost 70% of the Foxtel subscribers are now streaming customers. That wasn't the case 3 or 4 years ago. The obituary was written for Foxtel. Would we survive the death of Foxtel? Clearly we've survived, if not thrived. And this growth just tracks, obviously, the digital impressions of our platforms, up 15 kind of points over the last 3 or 4 years. And last year, I talked about introducing advertising onto Binge, being our streaming platform. Suffice to say, that went well. Number one, we had a significant audience to sell to. We integrated ads onto the base tier of our streaming platform. And if we look at the growth across those platforms, KO tracking 40% up year on year, Binge up 100. The other platforms, Foxtel Go, that's been around for 14, 15 years, but still growing at 14, 15%, and Tubi up nearly 80%. The big piece that binds all of these platforms together is, from an ad load perspective, we're running 4 or 5 minutes of ads an hour, we're managing frequency cap, and we're holding to that. The big piece for us is, across all of those video platforms, from a sales perspective and a CPM, they're probably some of the highest in the market because the level of intention, the level of engagement that comes from that better advertising experience. So we've had a pretty good year, and now from a revenue composition perspective, nearly 50% of our revenue is coming from those platforms. So whilst there's been lots of discussion here about either declining linear audiences and subsequent declines in linear revenue, from our perspective, with that transition to streaming, we continue to grow overall. And I think those numbers would stack up against any video player in the Australian market, if not globally. But what's going on with alternate currency? So back to Australia last year, in March, this headline hit one of the major trade titles and national papers. Foxtel's television's ratings data could be inflated by 40%. To tell you a bit of a story behind those numbers, so the currency in the Australian market is owned by 7, 9 and 10, the 3 free-to-air networks. And there was 2 people that knew there were some challenges with their currency data, us and Oztam. And suddenly this headline appears in the press. And it was actually Foxtel that raised the issue with Oztam that we were seeing sports audiences accelerate, probably beyond what we would expect. So you can judge your own conclusions where that leak of that story came from. But from our perspective, never waste a crisis. So at that point, we said to ourselves, number one, we can't let that happen again, even if the facts aren't actually kind of true. So that sent us spinning down the route of how do we build an alternative currency fast? So that by the time we get to January 24, when we go into trading, whatever the industry currency says, we've got our own benchmark to keep them honest. And can we trade on that currency moving forward? So we took that on. We went into the market to road test. Was it the right moment to bring an alternate currency? Would they accept it? Would they trade on it? So I was going to share with you a couple of the insights that came from both CMOs and some of the agency execs from the Australian marketplace. Ooh. Hopefully it will play. Can anyone in the special room out the back hit play on that one?
We want to make sure we're chatting to the people that are our customers so that we're not just blowing smoke up our own arse.
Yeah, fair enough. All good.
The fact remains you can't reach enough people with linear television anymore. We're past the tipping point, right? And so I think if you're not thinking about a screen strategy, if you're not thinking about planning to attention, I think there's some really important changes that you just have to now build into your thinking.
I think it's more frustration in terms of being able to get to a total TV conversation. We want to move that way, but to be able to actually trade and buy in that way, so that we're not having to go, oh, there's the new tech or new world versus old world engagement.
It should be digital video first, not hey, I'm going to buy my TV buy and then top up around the edges. The whole market needs to go digital video first.
I think measurement is tricky. It doesn't infuriate me. It sort of fascinates me, but it also it makes it very difficult to compare like for like, compare campaigns.
I think that unfortunately gone are the days when there was one metric and it was that simple.
I think that there is still legacy systems in place that are slowing the wider industry down.
I think as an industry, everybody's goal is to grow, evolve and adapt and innovate to be able to do that. I think that there needs to be a balance between getting it right and getting there quickly. There's no growth without pain.
No growth without pain. I'm not quite sure what's worse, presenting a slide with a picture of you on it or wearing pretty much the same outfit you wore 5 weeks ago when the slide presented itself. And I did ask my team, why is this slide included in the presentation? That's to remind you that you told everyone at the upfront what you're going to do about alternate currency. So thanks, team. So what are we going to do about alternative currency? Kantar is on the screen there. And we see that moving to an alternative currency, or as Patrick just said, open environment, I think I heard behind the stage. So from our perspective, going back to that point of never waste a crisis, we were sitting there with kind of 1.2, 1.3 million set-top boxes with return path data. If we left that idle for another moment, I think we would be missing the point. So we've been working literally in the last 3 or 4 months to supply Kantar with our set-top box data. We've supplied them, at the moment, 2 or 3 months worth of data, June, July, August, across 2023 and 2022, to give us a point of history that we can then compare to OzTam, the industry currency. And by the time we get to January 2024, we would have supplied them all of calendar 22, all of 23, and be ready with a service to compare that year on year. I had a call with the Australian team this morning, and we got the first sound bites of the data. To say I'm excited about the results is an understatement. Some of the numbers that, if we'd accepted that the industry kind of currency was keeping up to speed with the growth in streaming, we'd be staring down the barrel of some audience declines of 20 or 30% next year. And knowing that our own set-top box subscriber base is only back single digits, something doesn't stack up, something's wrong. And looking at the initial kind of data, we're now kind of confident that we'll take that forward. And there's been plenty of headlines about will it work or will it won't. And I'll get on to what the agencies are saying about that in the future. The other thing that we announced at the upfronts 5 weeks ago was an initiative, a body, a group called the Video Futures Collective. We were part of Think TV in the Australian marketplace for the last 5 to 10 years. we've been pushing to expand the members of Think TV. Let's include Netflix, let's include Disney+, let's include local global streamers. No one wanted to. I think there's a real danger in the television industry of trying to hold back the tide. So we've gone forward to create a body that brings all of those people together. How do we learn from each other? How do we build, for example, attention metrics across all of those streaming platforms? Providing some benchmarks for the industry, starting to fill in the gaps. So early days, but more announcements on what we'll do together next year. But that resonated with the industry, as did a lot of the things we said. So two of the big things we said in October was we're going to build an alternative currency with Kantar. We're going to set up the Video Futures Collective. And here's a selection of the headlines that we generated over that period. We generated, I think it's 177 articles on the back of the upfront. The nearest network was the Seven Network that generated about 120. So it told us that we'd resonated what we said. It's pretty fascinating to be at the Future of TV Advertising Conference when one of the headlines is the night Foxtel broke up with the television establishment, or why Foxtel is divorcing the TV industry. I think TV does have a branding problem. Television equals linear advertising in so many people's minds. So in our perspective and our objective moving forward is to transition all of our business to IP as fast as possible. I think James from kind of Comcast mentioned this morning, do it in the next 6-7 years. We chat every quarter about how we're kind of progressing. I don't think the industry's got 6 or 7 years. The way that television, in its oldest sense, is going to reprove itself against YouTube, Meta, and others is by getting to IP. We'll be on the same playing field. We can prove through attention, engagement, ROI, that we deliver a much better environment, and our premium video is worth paying for. As some of the execs in the Australian market said, digital video first. It's going to be a landslide to digital video. And from our perspective, unless our assets and our inventory are traded through a digital workflow, we'll be managing some declines, not growth. And that's why alternative currency is so important for us moving forward. As I said, there's plenty of skeptics out there. Some of our friendly broadcasters, Mark, I hope you fail. Thanks for your support. It's a very friendly environment back in Australia. But I think we felt like the industry was at the right moment in time. I spent a fair bit of time going to the US in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, it was, our alternative currency is going to be a thing. Is it going to happen? Go there a year later, it's already happened. It's not a question anymore. It's a statement. It's a fact. It's done. So alternative measurement is already here. So despite a few other press articles that said, bad decision, you're misguided, it's not going to work, Omnicom, biggest media buyer in the Australian marketplace, straight out, we're going to back what Foxtel are doing from Kantar. Because given a choice, if you're a client or you're an agency and you're going to get audience information from a 1,400 home panel or from 1 million plus set-top boxes with rich insights across every channel, every day part, and moving beyond demographics, I think you're going to buy that. I think you're going to buy that. And I think this was one of the press releases that Omnicom put out. There's another 5 or 6 that are supporting our drive into alternative currency going into 2024. What's next for us? This is the Foxtel IQ set-top box in the Australian marketplace. The next project for us is to transition all of that linear inventory to digital, not in 7 years, in 2. There is probably about 10% of our set-top boxes that aren't IP enabled. The rest are. So the faster we transition all of that inventory to be traded digitally with dynamic ad insertion, to trade on impressions, the better we'll go moving forward. And we believe from a revenue perspective, we'll grow. Every impression that moves from a TV impact to a digital impression, to overlay data, to blend it with KO, Binge, and those other platforms that I mentioned, will grow. will continue to grow. So all being well, hopefully I'll get invited back in 12 months' time and we would have kicked off that project. And from a Foxtel perspective, we won't be talking about our journey to 100% IP. We'll actually be there. Thank you very much.